Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Bree. Today's reading vlog is going to be a cozy fantasy reading vlog, which I've been looking forward to doing for quite a while. So a little backstory into my cozy fantasy era was when I was younger, I read Howl's Moving Castle by Deanna Wynne-Jones, and I really loved it. I love the movie too. I think the movie is a bit better than the book, but I did find the book very endearing, and it's a book that I reread often. I haven't read it in a couple of years now, I think 2, but I often read it like every couple of years, and it's just a cozy fantasy middle grade book. And it's one that introduced me to this idea that I could really love characters and setting and just have a whimsical, cozy, safe story without having some major heartbreak and things like that. There's definitely can be plot and tension within these books, but it isn't as dire as in like high fantasy books. Characters aren't going to be killed off. You feel like a safe coziness to the story. Now, I think that there's a broad range of definitions to cozy, and some things that I consider cozy might not be considered cozy to you. But the second book that really brought this to life and is what helped a lot of people understand that this could be a genre within itself, and that is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. I read this at the end of last year and really loved it. It's just a sweet story about an orc who opens a coffee shop and has found family elements. It's got a little bit of romance, and it's just a sweet story about opening a coffee shop, and I really loved it. So I've been trying to find more cozy fantasy that I really love, and I have found some, and I do have a recommendation video if you want to check it out, but I really want to get more recommendations and a broader range of them, but I've been struggling to find more because I do find a lot have to do with romance, and I'm not really into romance as much. I can read a cozy fantasy romance, but it's not my preferred. So these are the ones that I've collected to read and review in this reading vlog. So first we have the prequel to Legends Lattes, which is Bookshops and Bone Dust. I think it's about Viv when she is more newer to fighting and her life before the bookshop. And I think it's about her in this little seaside town, and I think it has to do with a bookshop, and it's just going to be cozy good time. I'm interested to see how this one goes because it might be a way to appeal to different kinds of readers if there's a little bit more action in this one. But we'll see. I'm really excited for this. It's one of my most anticipated books of the year. So the next one I have is The Cat Who Saved Books by Suzuki Natsukawa, and this is translated by Louise Heel Kawai, and this is translated from Japanese. It's a boy who loses his grandfather, and then a cat comes into the bookshop that his grandfather has passed to him and tells him he needs to help save the world and save these books. And so I've put on the list because although it's dealing with grief, I think it's supposed to be done in a way that's very heartwarming and cozy and just makes you feel safe. I've heard someone describe that cozy fantasy can deal with harder topics, but can do it in a very soft and welcoming way that makes you feel like the trauma that is there is you're able to work through it without having to have your heart ripped out, you know, where dark academia really looks at the dark side of trauma. This is more of a look into how you can heal through others and through like comfort and protection, if that makes sense. So I'm really interested in this one. I think this is also going to fall more into the magical realism side of things, but I'm happy to give it a go. And then we have one that I own, but it's on ebook. And this one is Can't Spell Treason Without Tea by Rebecca Thorne. This is one that has been heavily recommended alongside Legends and Lattes. Like most people who've read Legends and Lattes and are recommending books will recommend this one. So I really want to check it out. It's about 2 women who are, one's a guard and one is a witch, I believe. And I think they're in a relationship and they run away to start a like tea shop and bookstore. And so I don't really know much more about that, but I've heard this one highly recommended, so I'm happy to give it a go. And then we have another middle grade, and this one came out this year and I've been wanting to pick it up, and that's The Grace of Wild Things by Heather Fawcett. This is a middle grade that is a magical retelling of Anne of Green Gables, and I believe it's like following the plot of Anne of Green Gables, but you have a girl who has to do different magical tasks with this witch in the woods, and it just sounds really cute and up my alley because I really did like parts of Anne of Green Gables, but I didn't like the contemporary setting, so I think maybe a magical setting might be for me. So there's that one. And then the final one, I'm counting it as one though, there are 3. So that is the Tea Dragon Society graphic novels. So I read the Tea Dragon Society probably 2 years ago now, a year ago. Really loved it. It's such a wonderful, sweet, cozy story about just this girl who apprentices to learn about tea dragons, which are these little guys. and they grow tea out of their heads, and you get to like connect with them through memories if you steep the tea, and it's just a really sweet story. It's got found family as well. So I've read this one, but I'm going to be finishing the series so I can recommend it as a whole, and that is the Tea Dragon Festival, which is the second, and the Tea Dragon Tapestry, which is the third. So I have these to read together as well. So there you have it. Those are the books I'm going to be reading in this vlog plus one, and let's just get right into it. Let's talk about Can't Spell Treason Without Tea. So in this, we're following two women, Kianth, I think is how you pronounce it, and Raina. And Raina was a prison, nope. Raina was a, what's it called when you keep the king?
What is it called? What?
When you like protect the king?
Honor guard?
Okay, a guard. That's the word. Okay, thank you. Raina was a guard for the queen, and at the beginning of the book, she kind of decides she's over it, and she decides to leave with her girlfriend Kianth, and Kianth is like the highest mage in the land, and she travels a lot and kind of has like a lot of freedom with that, but she has also like a lot of responsibilities. But Raina runs away and takes Kianth up on her offer that they said they always wanted to run away and start a bookshop and tea shop, and so they go and they find this place that's kind of remote that they won't be found because Kianth is now on the run from the queen's guard, and they're going to start this coffee shop. And so I do feel a lot of similar vibes to Legends and Lattes so far. I will say the beginning chapter was a lot more graphic than I thought it was going to be, because it is cozy a lot, but the beginning there was a lot of on-screen like death and her literally killing someone. So if that bothers you, just know that that's in the beginning. And the rest of it so far has been pretty cozy, and I really like our two main characters. You're switching, I don't know if I said that, but you're switching between perspectives for them, and I really like Raina and Kianth. And then I am enjoying like the townspeople they're meeting, and I think it's going to be cozy, like found family vibes, which is always my thing. I think it's going to be a little more high stakes than Legends and Lattes, which isn't something I mind, but I so far really like the characters, which is I think one of my biggest things for books, and I'm also enjoying the writing and the setting a lot. There's an interesting magic system in terms of how Kianth can use her magic. I'm enjoying learning about that, and it has to do with ley lines and stuff, which I found really interesting. And I think the other plot that's kind of going on, which is like Raina running away, I'm interested to see how that will unfold. So yes, so far enjoying. I'll probably check in around 50 to 75% when I get there to let you know how I'm feeling about it, but so far it's been really good. So hello. So I cannot find my Kobo at the moment, but I wanted to update you because last night I got to around the 50% mark of Can't Spell Treason Without Tea, and I have more thoughts, and so I wanted to give you a little update. I'm enjoying it, though I don't know if I can confidently call it a full cozy mystery cozy fantasy, because there's been a couple of things that like put you on edge, and not that you can't have any tension. I think just with cozies, like knowing it's all going to work out is one of the things that's good about it. And I'm not saying that that isn't there, but there have been like quite a few moments of like very big tension that have me worried. So in that sense, it's a little more high stakes. So if you're looking for something super cozy, I don't know if this is necessarily going to be it. I am waiting to see if more of the plot unfolds, though I do think plot is going to be a slower pace than in like a regular fantasy. So far I'm really liking the characters, which is important to me, and I'm liking the world. I would like a little more world building, but I think we're going to get that as it goes forward. And I'm just enjoying the whole tea and bookshop thing. I think if you liked Legends and Lattes for the whole building the coffee shop and you liked seeing that process, I think this one goes even more into the process of building it and stuff like that. And so I'm enjoying it a lot. I like it from that perspective. I don't know if it'll be an all-time cozy favorite at this moment, but I am enjoying it a lot. It's feeling very like 4-star range for me, which is a good range to be in. So that's my update on that. I'm hoping to finish it. I'll let you know my thoughts when I finish it, hopefully today, and then we'll move on to our next book. Editing Brie here, and I just wanted to talk to you because I realized while I'm editing this that I never wrapped up my full thoughts on Can't Spell Treason Without Tea. And when I was around the 50% mark, I was really liking it and enjoying the characters and interested in the magic system and the plot. And I do feel like I continued to like the characters, but at the same time, I felt like we just started to get really repetitive, and a lot of the arguments that they would have, it felt like the same arguments over and over again, or like the same problem, because I wouldn't really call them arguments. Like I feel like they were handled with a lot of care and respect for each other, and they would like have more like discussions about things, but it just was like the same problems from start to finish. And I mean, at the end, they kind of resolved a little bit, but it felt like we would have the same conversations over and over again. And so my enjoyment really started to go down after the 50% mark. And while it was like a 4-star at the 50% mark, I feel like by the end, it was closer to a 3, like a lower 3, just because I wanted more from the characters than just having these same conversations. And it was like a 400 or more page book. I can't really tell on ebook. Sometimes they're longer on ebook than they are in physical. Just felt like things were very long and we didn't really get a lot of forward progress. I just wanted things to be edited down a bit more than they were. So yeah, I don't think I would continue on with the series because I think it is like a 3-book series. And I do think the cozy level is a bit lower than maybe what people initially are saying, because it is marketed like on the cover it says cozy fantasy, but there are a lot of moments of tension where the characters really feel that they're going to lose like their friend or their partner or something like that. So there are like a lot of moments of like real tension that I don't know if you could call it fully cozy fantasy. To me, it's kind of like in the ballpark of like Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, which I personally think is cozy, but I think that some readers are going to have a problem calling it cozy. So I really think it just depends on your definition of cozy and what you think you can handle. So there's that. Unfortunately, I really wanted to enjoy this, and I think the relationships, I think the author was doing a lot with like showing respectful boundaries and respectful conversations and partners that really like value each other first and can talk about things in a way that's like not just coming from a place of hurt, but coming from a place of respect for your partner. I think that dynamic was really cool to see and really important to see. Just was repetitive. I just wanted them to not have to have the same conversation so many times. So in that case, it's a 3 for me, but I don't think that should deter you from trying it if it sounds interesting to you. So those are my final thoughts on that. And let's just move on to the next book. Okay, I have an update on The Grace of Wild Things by Heather Fawcett. I started this on audio, and I've been primarily listening on audio, but I did pick it up from the library as well. I really like the audiobook because I think the narrator really brings Grace's personality out even more. So this is a middle grade fantasy that's inspired by Anne of Green Gables. So Grace is very much like Anne from Anne of Green Gables. So if you like Anne a lot, I feel like you will really like Grace, and she very much reads like Anne, but with this whole fantasy setting. And so Anne is so Grace is an orphan, and she runs away from the orphanage because she keeps being passed over to be taken home, and she decides she's gonna go just find a witch to teach her how to use magic because she knows that she has magic. And so she finds the witch, and the witch does not want her to stay, but she agrees to basically let her stay, and if she can complete 100.5 spells from this grimoire by the year end. And if she does, then Grace will be able to be her apprentice, but if she doesn't, then she will take Grace's magic. And we're just following Grace while she makes some friends and kind of gets involved in the community, but also while she's trying to complete these tasks. So she has a animal companion named Windweaver, who's a crow, who she gave him the ability to talk, but she doesn't know how, and they're very cute. I really like the animal companion side. I think this is super cute so far, and I'm having fun with the kind of task element of it, her having to complete each one. It's part of the story and it's not too big of the story, but it is engaging as well. Like it's not every single thing that she's doing is about these tasks to make it too repetitive, but it is mixed in quite nicely with her also going to school. I did enjoy Anne of Green Gables, but my problem is that I'm not a big contemporary type reader, and so for me it was a little slow and a little boring because it was just repetitive and like the day-to-day life. While this has that, it also adds the fantasy element and the things that keep me more intrigued. So for this, I think I'm really enjoying it. I also really like Heather Fawcett's writing. I wasn't sure how I would like it because the only one I've read from her is an adult book, but I think she gets the whimsy of middle grade very well and the whimsy of like this kind of witchy story. And she also talks about different fairy tales that involve witches, like Hansel and Gretel and things like that, and kind of messes with how we perceive them. And this witch just like has a lot to say on those things. So I think that's fun. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I'm about halfway and I will probably continue this tomorrow and hopefully finish soon. But so far, this is a good cozy fantasy. If you like a middle grade, I think that it's a good one. If you're more into adult fantasy, this one might not be for you. But for me, who I enjoy middle grade and I enjoy cozy fantasy, this one seems to be a win so far. Hello again. This is embarrassing. Because I don't know if I lost footage or what I was doing, but I've been having a lot with having surgery and stuff, and so I think things just fell out of my head and I thought I wrapped them up and I never did. So here we are to talk about The Grace of Wild Things because I did not finish my thoughts on this one. I was enjoying it a lot when I was at the 50% mark, but I think honestly the same thing kind of happened with this one that happened with Can't Spell Treason Without Tea, is that the element of having to finish the grimoire and do... Apologies. My husband is gaming with his friend, and I don't know if you're going to hear it, but I shut all the doors, so hopefully not. So, what was I trying to say? Oh, it got repetitive, just like Can't Spell Treason Without Tea. Words are hard. And while it wasn't like repetitive in the same way, it just was that we kept doing tasks for the grimoire, and so it was a lot about like collecting the tasks. I enjoyed the friendships in here, and I enjoyed the message that was here. It deals with a lot of harder topics like grief and loss and saying goodbye, things like that are very difficult to talk about, but I think it did it in a whimsical, like easy to digest way that for a middle grade reader I think would be like a great way to kind of learn about something like this, but also as an adult, just like a way that feels like a warm hug to like kind of go through some of those emotions. I think it was the Anna Green Gables side of things too that like threw me off. It was very to the T Anna Green Gables. So if you like want a retelling that's a very true retelling, this really will give you that. But there were a lot of things that I found boring about Anna Green Gables that then translated into this. I really think that this has a really great audience that it could really pick up in the cozy fantasy area, and I think it's a great middle grade. So I don't think this is a bad book by any means. I just think it had things in here that I don't typically mesh with while reading. That said, like the whimsical vibes, the way that she talks about things, and the way that Grace sees the world, which is very similar to Anna Green Gables, just really makes everything feel beautiful and alive and full of magic, and that was really captured in here, which really added to the cozy vibes. So I'm really happy I gave it a try and read it. It's just not my favorite middle grade of all time, but I think that it is a very good cozy fantasy. So let's hope I don't have to see you again, because I still have 1, 2, 3 more books to edit before I'm done with this vlog, so hopefully you don't see editing Brie here again, but we will see. Okay, I thought we'd just change up locations, so I'm in my living room, but I wanted to talk to you about The Cat Who Saved Books because I finished this in one sitting. It was a really quick read. It was only 191 pages, and it read very quickly because the way this is set up is mainly, it's in like kind of quests. So the first chapter is called How It All Began, but then you have the next chapter is called The First Labyrinth, then we have the second labyrinth, then the third. So you could kind of almost read each one like its own little short story, though the whole story definitely connects. And it's basically, like I said, about this cat who comes after this young boy. He's about 16, I want to say. His grandfather passes away. He's going to move in with his aunt who he's never met before, and she's kind of a distant aunt. And so he's kind of just dealing with grief and just not really kind of going through the motions of life. And this cat comes in and tells him he needs his help to save these books. And he tells him there's 3 quests he needs to go on. And so he goes with him through a portal and into a scenario where a person is not treating books the way that they're supposed to, or the way that is caring for them, I guess. And so it's about this boy who's always been surrounded by books through his grandfather and always cared very deeply about books and stories. And so it's him talking to these people and kind of convincing them to look at their books in a different light. And at the same time, he's really able to kind of work through his grief and things in a, well, in a way that's very sweet. And it was emotional, especially at the beginning, because you do get, you know, his grandfather passing and the funeral and all that. You do get like a look into that, and it feels very sad, but I do feel like the whole story felt like a hug in a way, and definitely an ode to books. So if you're someone who really loves books, I also feel like you can feel that in this as well. The translation is still a bit like Before the Coffee Gets Cold, where there's not a lot of extra to it. It's very straightforward kind of writing, and so if that's not your thing, I don't know for sure if this would be for you, but it did just like, it made me feel cozy, and it was perfect to read while I was laid up in bed after my surgery. So I just would highly recommend it as if you are someone who likes magical realism or a little less fantasy, you want something cozy, I would say this is a good one. And it's not too long, so you aren't investing a ton of time into this if you don't like it. I say it's not a 5-star for me, but it is something that I could see myself recommending to people who like kind of translated works and want something cozy. So that is The Cat Who Saved Books. I'm really happy I added this one to the cozy recommendations list, and I'm glad it was Win. So there you go. And now that we've read that, I want to move on and read The Tea Dragon Society, these two, because I think it's just going to be a good cozy time while I'm just sitting here recovering. So we're going to read those, and then I will definitely finish these in probably like an hour or two, and so I will come back and let you know my thoughts.
Weightless, I am weightless. Underneath your wind I soar.
Okay, I finished the Tea Dragon Festival, so I thought I'd check in. So this one's really interesting because we have our two main characters from the first book, Eric and Ezekiel. That's Eric, that's Ezekiel. And it is kind of part of their backstory. So we're actually visiting Eric's hometown and mainly following his sister, Rin, and her journey. And so this is like a lot of years before the events of the first one. And you are getting her, Rin, as she finds Adhan, who is a dragon in the forest, and he's been asleep for a very long time, and there's like a dragon festival coming up, and she's also just grappling with what she wants to do with her life and how she wants to spend it, and the things she's good at versus the things that she thinks she should be doing. And so it's just very sweet. Again, it was perfect, like cozy, wholesome story that you feel very safe in. And also the thing that's cool about this is one of the characters in the book is deaf, and the whole community has learned how to sign. And so in the very beginning too, there's a note for readers of that there's going to be American Sign Language in here and how it's used. And so Kay O'Neill actually like brings sign language into the book, and I just think that's really cool. I've never seen that in a book, and I just think that kind of representation is really cool to see. And so there's a whole thing in the back too about sign language and resources for it. Yeah, it was again a very sweet story. I love the artwork. So yeah, it's a story about really just figuring out what to do with your life, and that push and pull between the feelings of what you should be doing versus what you are good at, and how things that you're good at can actually be very beneficial. And basically our main girl, Rin, is not, she wants to become a cook because that's very like esteemed, and she thinks it would be very helpful for the community, but she's not horrible at it, but she's just not the best at it. But she is really good at foraging for things that people need, and she doesn't view that at the same level as cooking. She kind of views that as just something that is she enjoys doing but isn't like a big deal in the community, and over time she's learning how it's actually something very valuable to the community. So yeah, I liked that we were following a different set of characters while also staying in the same world and same like seeing some of the same characters. I thought that was fun and just a good addition to the story. So now I'm going to read the Tea Dragon Tapestry, which from the looks of it looks like we're going back to our main characters from the first book. Also, I have to add that I just love the tea dragons. There's tea dragons in this one, and these ones are like a little bit more wild. Like in these you have tea dragons and they basically have like one person that they stick with and they bond to. And in this one, they just kind of bond to the community, and the community just like feeds them and stuff. And so they're just like all around town, and I just loved it so much. And they're just so cute. There's so many like cute little illustrations of them. Ugh, just like look at those. So yeah, let's move on, and I will finish the Tea Dragon Tapestry.
I feel wasted with every breath I draw from you.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I'm really sad these are over. I've been putting them off for so long because I just knew I was gonna be sad when it was finished, but they were so good. And it's just, I think this is probably my favorite graphic novel series ever. One, illustrations are beautiful, like so stunning, but also the story is so beautiful and so wholesome and just really like soft is the best word I can describe. It's whimsical, but like in a very soft, like feels like a warm hug, and it's just the most beautiful thing I've read in a graphic novel form, and probably in general actually too. I want to show you my favorite illustrations were these like beautiful purple ones. It's not going to give anything away, but I just want to, these are just gorgeous. Like I think the panels with the purple panels with Manette are just like my absolute favorite. I just think they're so beautiful. Basically, this one is following Greta as she is now trying to get an apprenticeship for some blacksmithing, and it's her journey in that. And a blacksmith is coming to town to kind of test her. And then Manette is just still with Eric and Ezekiel and kind of just still coming to terms with like her past that we learn about in the first one and her kind of path in life. And one thing that this explored a lot with Manette is just like kind of grieving the life you thought you were going to have and accepting the one in front of you. But to me, it reminded me a lot of like chronic illness and my journey with that. And we also look at Eric, who in the first one is in a wheelchair because of an accident he had while fighting. And so he kind of mentors her in this and how he also had to come to terms with like that same concept. And it's something that is a part of chronic illness that I never thought was going to be a part of it or isn't really widely talked about. Like I've been sick for over 12 years and it's always been kind of a part of me, but not until the past few years has it gotten really bad. And that like having to like grieve certain parts of your life that you used to have, and like there's still optimism that you could get back to that one day, but also like the reality is you're in a certain place and can't do things like you used to, and that's can be really hard to change and like come to terms with. And so it really is a grieving process, and that is explored so much in this, and it really spoke to me and just something that I really resonate with. And so I thought that was really beautiful. And then also Greta's story is like, it's kind of about her creative process and also like just creating essentially something she loves, not just what other people want to see. And I thought that was really cool too. I really liked this journey. And also, and in this, there's also some grief of a tea dragon who had lost their person, and it's like their journey of grief and feeling that loss. And so it deals with like essentially a pet losing their partner in life, and that also really got me. But everything again is done in such a way that it's just like a warm hug, and you feel safe, and you feel like you can confront these bigger things in a way that is very easy to connect to and easy to approach. Not easy to approach, but like is approached with a lot of love and care. So that's what I love about these. Who knew I was going to get emotional over these books, but I really did. So I would highly recommend. I think out of this reading vlog so far, like I would recommend these the most. These have been the winner so far, like hands down the winner. So just have one book left to go. That is Bookshops and Bone Dust. And I'm hopefully going to finish that here in a few days, since I'm still holed up, not really doing much. I know I look put together, but that's because I needed something to do. But moving around is not the easiest. So we're going to be spending a lot of time on the couch or in bed reading. And so hopefully I will come back soon with an update on Bookshops and Bone Dust, but 5 out of 5 stars for me. Highly recommend. Hello, it's the next day. I did a decent amount of reading yesterday, but I didn't check in because I was reading other things, so I hadn't updated this quite as much as I was hoping to. But now I've made it to 87 pages in, so I wanted to give you initial thoughts. So in this, we're following Viv as she's been injured in a kind of battle or situation, and she's holed up in this seaside town while she recovers, and while she's bored, she kind of goes out and explores, and she finds this kind of broken down bookshop that needs a lot of repairs, and she meets this Radican and her dog, which is like a dog slash, I think they call it I don't know what they call them, but it's basically like a dog bird hybrid, and Viv is just kind of helping them with the shop and getting the shop back in order. And for one thing, the dog, I'm just gonna call it a dog, even though it's called something else, I just can't remember. His name is Pot Roast, which is really cute, but I kept reading it like Patrost for so long. Like I won't lie to you, it took me until like page 80 to realize that said Pot Roast. So embarrassing. So the name of the Radican is Fern, and Fern basically has this bookshop that she's inherited from her father and is kind of falling apart, and she doesn't know what to do. And Viv just kind of strikes up a friendship and is helping her to get it back on track. And there's another character called Pitts, and he's another orc, and he's kind of helped a little bit. He reminds me a little bit of the character in Legends and Lattes. I can't remember his name right now. Who's kind of like grumpy and helps with the building. And so far I'm enjoying it. I would say I don't find it quite as endearing as I did with the first 100 pages of Legends and Lattes. It has the same kind of atmosphere and the same kind of writing where he's describing a lot of the scenes and the smells and the food, and I really loved that about it. It made it really cozy. And so I do still think this is really cozy and a really good cozy fantasy so far. But in terms of how it is in a like comparison to Legends and Lattes, I so far liked Legends and Lattes a little bit more. But I also am someone who enjoys episodic type books, and this is reading very episodic. So if you're someone who doesn't like that, I don't know if this will be as fun for you, but it really reads just like a little side story that we get to enjoy. And then if there's another one, like I could see it being Viv going to another town during her travels. So I just think it's not a direct connection to Legends and Lattes so far. I think we're getting to see maybe how Viv met some of the people that she knows from her crew when she leaves the crew in Legends and Lattes. So maybe we're going to get some backstory. I can see there will be some overlap, but for the most part, just reading very episodic. So I'm enjoying it. I'm going to continue reading. My goal is to finish it today because I don't have much to do, and I kind of just need to take it easy. So yeah. Okay, we're really about to put to the test how comfortable I've gotten filming in public, because we're in a parking lot. There's lots of people going by, and so far I'm uncomfortable, but we're gonna try it because I wanted to change up, locations, and also I got books, so I want to talk to you about them. So I will update on Bookshops and Bone Dust, but first I want to go over the books I got. I got 2 for me and 2 for presents. So the 2 I got for me is I picked up The 100 Years' War on Palestine by Rashid Khalidi. It's a history of settler it's a history of settler colonialism and resistance. And it's 1917 to 2017, but I did start this on ebook and I really wanted a physical copy to annotate. And it actually starts even before 1917. There's a lot of stuff that builds up and it's been really, really good and eye-opening so far. So yeah, I'm really happy I got a physical copy because I want to write and annotate, and it's also one that I wanted to reference to people or to like be able to loan to family and friends who want to learn more. And yeah, I can just see myself referencing this and recommending it a lot. So I definitely wanted to have a physical copy, and it's really good so far, and I would highly recommend because free Palestine. And also educating yourself on world events is always important, and I have been lacking in it, so I am happy I got that. And then I also picked up Against the Loveless World by Susan Abulhawa. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. So this is a Palestinian author. She was exiled from Palestine. She lives in Philadelphia. No, she lives in Pennsylvania. And this is her book, and it says it won the Palestine Book Awards in 2020. So this is a story about a woman who's been in a Israeli cell and eventually gets out and is exiled. And then it's her story of eventually going back to Palestine and revisiting like the places she grew up and stuff. It seems like it's just going to be a really good story, and I'm really happy I picked it up because I think on top of like reading nonfiction, it's also important to read fiction by Palestinian authors and just experience everything, even not just the heartbreak, but the joys and things like that. Is something that's also very important when learning about cultures that have been oppressed. I think is really important to see all sides of the story, so not just nonfiction, but also fiction as well. So I got those two, so I'm looking forward to reading Against a Loveless World, probably in December because I want to finish the nonfiction first. And then I don't think that my mother-in-law is going to be watching this, but if you are, just don't look and turn it off. This is what I got her. They're going to Italy next year, and I actually studied abroad in Italy when I was in college in Rome, and so I'm going to go through and mark all the places that I would recommend and things that I think are worth it for tourists or not. And also they're going to go outside of there, so I was going to go through the whole book and kind of like tab things, and then when it's closer to, I'm going to get her some like maps and mark on the maps actually where things are and different like restaurants and stuff I would recommend and things like that, because I think these are fun, but it's hard to know what like is worth your time and what's not worth your time. And obviously there's things that she's going to want to do that I might not think are worth her time, but I want her to go through what I've said and then pick out some things that she likes, and then I can help put things on the map for her of where they want to go, so that when they go, they can just take their map. And there's also like mobile apps, so I'll talk to her about that too, but setting her up with like mobile apps that they can use while they're there that you don't need Wi-Fi or anything for it. Like there's ones that you can use that are completely offline. So just getting her set up with that kind of stuff. So that's this. And then for my sister's boyfriend, I got Razorblade Tears by S.B. Cosby because he's into reading, but he hasn't read a ton. And my sister, she told me that she wanted me to give him some like more mystery thriller recommendations. And so I thought of this one because she said that he needs action, and this one's definitely action packed. But I also think it's got a lot of commentary on like not accepting people, and it's about these two ex-cons that their sons were together and both were killed, and the dads are now trying to get revenge for the people who killed their sons, but also having to deal with their own homophobia and really like accepting the fact that they didn't accept their sons while they were alive, and now they can never do that. Like they can never reverse time and change it, and how they wish they would. And so it's really a gradual process of them coming to terms with their homophobia and how damaging that was to their relationships with their sons and everything. And just it does it in a very like thriller guy action-packed kind of way, and so I think it's approachable for a lot of people. So I just thought this one was a really good one when I read it, for like a dude bro thriller, but like sprinkle in some like other things going on, because I think he would like that. She said he likes having more than just action, so I think this gives the kind of vibe that he might like. And S.A. Cosby has a lot of other ones. I need to read Blacktop Wasteland, and he has another one that came out, All Sinners Bleed. I tried to read it for Black Halloween, but the library wait was so long that I have put that on hold, and I'm still waiting for it. But I do want to read that one as well, because I really liked Razor Blade Tears. I gave it 5 stars when I read it. So those are the books I got. Excited to have some presents done and have those other books on my shelf. Now let's talk Bookshops and Bone Dust by Travis Baldree, because I finished this morning and I feel like I don't have a ton to say about this. It was really good and like very reminiscent of Legends and Lattes. It had that same cozy feel to it. It's had the same like kind of lovable characters, and Viv is very much feels like the same. She just feels like she has some more work to do before she grows into who she is in Legends and Lattes. I love Pot Roast. Like, seriously, my favorite. Pot Roast was the cutest thing. And there's also another character in here called Satchel, and I love Satchel. Like, Satchel is like the real MVP of this story, and yeah, I liked it, but I don't think it had the same like heartwarming heart that the first one had. So I would give it around like a 4, 4.5. Like, I don't think it was unreadable or it wasn't enjoyable, but a lot of people have said their criticism with it is that why introduce us to characters when we already know they're going, like Viv's going to be in a different town in Legends and Lattes, and it feels like get to know characters to have to leave them. And while I feel like that's true for some, like there is a character in here that I feel that way, like why set up a certain like chain of events when like we know Viv is in a different town later. But at the same time, I really enjoyed having like an episodic type story, because I really like that, and so to me it didn't really like rub me the wrong way. Like, you couldn't get quite as attached because you know that Viv goes to a different town. But I really liked the epilogue and how it ended, and I would take more in this series from this author. I know it would be a little hard to do, but like even more of like the backstory of Viv and like the adventure she goes on. It was exciting to see her and kind of evolving from, because at the beginning of this she's still kind of in her early journey of her like, what is it called? Swashbuckling? I don't know. She's earlier in that process, and so you're seeing her grow in that as well. So like getting more stories of her like on the road and like having stops at these different towns, like I'd be into. But I could see where it might get boring for some. But I do think if you were someone who read Legends and Lattes and felt like it needed more action, I feel like this one has actually more action than Legends and Lattes. So if you were like kind of like, it was like good but like needed more action, maybe give this one a try. Or if you're like someone who wants to get into cozy fantasy, but you've heard that the other one is too slow or not as action-packed, this might be a way to try Travis Baldree, because I think his writing and his imagery and like his characters are so compelling. Like, I really like that about it. So this might be an easier place for you to start. That's my thoughts on this. I'm going to go because there are so many cars going past me and I'm getting very uncomfortable. Oh yeah. Okay, I'll see you later. All right, so we're back at home now, but I just wanted to wrap up the vlog and show you all the books I read. So I read all these books. I put this one here to stand in for Can't Spell Tea Without Treason. But all these books in this cozy fantasy vlog, and I hope you found some maybe recommendations or just kind of ideas of things that could be considered cozy in this video. But by far, I think I'm gonna rank them. I think it would go, okay, I think if I'm ranking them in order, I think at the top, these two would go on top. And I think actually in this order too. And then it would be Bookshops and Bone Dust, The Cat Who Saved Books, Can't Spell Treason Without Tea, and The Grace of Wild Things. Actually, I don't know. I feel like Can't Spell Tea. This is so hard to do. I feel like these two are kind of tied. I felt the similar feelings towards them. So yeah, these would be on bottom, and then we'd have the rest of these. So yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time.